Hello everyone, this is Simply Startup coming to you with another video today from our Medieval Dynasty series, and today's video is going to be all about farming. Farming is the most important aspect of Medieval Dynasty, and in this video I'm going to be telling you exactly why it's so important, the best crops you can produce, and how to manage your farm. Then we will be ending with a few tips to ensure maximum production. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for giving my channel a try and encourage you to like this video and consider subscribing if you enjoy the content. I have lots more Medieval Dynasty videos planned out, both of the instructional and entertainment variety that will be coming very soon. So thanks so much again, but before I take up any more of your time, let's get into the video. Farming is undoubtedly the most essential practice to master in Medieval Dynasty. Not only will the farms produce the lion's share of food for your villagers, but they also have the potential to generate more silver each year than any other activity in the game. Instituting proper farming techniques will literally and metaphorically be the difference between feast or famine for your community. I think it's important to note here that while automation is your best friend, farming will be a job that you will need to roll up your sleeves with, especially in the early game. Farming is a very hands-on activity that will require constant management and upkeep. Also important to note, your farm will be the only system in the game where your inputs will actually generate a greater number of outputs. Every seed that you can get planted in year 1 will produce even more seeds that will be available for planting in year 2. Your farm has the opportunity for exponential growth on your initial investment. With this exponential growth, it is of the utmost importance that you get your farm started as early as possible. Not all seeds are created equal though, and planting the wrong seeds can be just as detrimental for your village as not planting at all. So let's go over the best crops to produce. For this section, we are going to split the plantables into two categories. A consumable category that will be filled with vegetables and used to feed your village, and a production category that will encompass everything else. Let's start with the consumables category, where we will be going over the best crops you can plant to feed your dynasty. Number 1 on our list is cabbage. The great thing about cabbage is that it can be planted in more than one season. Cabbages can be planted in both spring and summer, only taking one season to produce. This means you can plant cabbage for your dynasty in the spring, then harvest and replant in the summer, doubling the amount of cabbage in the ground. Cabbages also have a high yield at 7 to 8 cabbages per plot. They will go into decent dishes like pottage and vegetable soup. If you're strictly looking to feed your villagers the basics, then cabbage is the way to go. Next up, we have beetroot. Beetroots are our second choice in the consumable category because they make the most expensive and best dish, soup. Beetroots go down in the springtime and will be ready for harvest in autumn, meaning they take a whole extra season to produce compared to cabbage. Each field will produce 7 to 8 beetroots, so try to plant accordingly to your village's consumption level. Our third pick for the consumables category will be onions. Onions can be planted in the spring and will be ready for harvest the very next season in summer. These treats have layers and can be used in dishes such as meat with gravy, flatbread with onion, and vegetable soup. Last on our list is carrots. Carrots can also be planted in 2 seasons, just like cabbage, but takes 2 seasons to produce. Carrots can be planted in winter or springtime and harvested in summertime or autumn. The big benefit to carrots is that you can plant them in the winter, which is normally a time for rest for your farmers. Carrots can go into the stew and vegetable soup dishes, which are both moderately useful for feeding your dynasty. Each consumable crop is special in its own way, but to summarize, cabbages are best for feeding your community, beetroots are best for making some extra silver, onions have layers, and carrots can be planted in winter if you need something for workers to do. Moving on, let's talk about the best production crops you can plant. Instead of food, these crops will be used as materials, animal feed, or other various productions around the village. First up on our list is flax. There is no doubt that the number one on our list will be flax. Flax is by far the most important crop in Medieval Dynasty, and it's not even close. Flax can be planted in the springtime and will come up in summer. Flax will be used to create all of your linen products like clothing. Additionally, flax seeds are great to sell to traders due to their lightweight and high market price. Flax is worth its weight in gold in Medieval Dynasty, and if you want your dynasty to progress fast, then planting flax is the way to go. In the number 2 spot is rye. Rye is next up on our list, and it is good for not only producing straw, but also producing rye grain, which is used to feed animals. Rye is much better to plant than wheat in the early to mid game. Rye is planted in autumn and comes up in the spring. Its notable productions are animal feed, gruel, and rye bread. The third most important production to plant is oats. Oats are mostly used to go into animal feed, but they also can be used to produce all types of porridge and oat rolls as well. You will need to get oats into the ground as soon as you start keeping animals in your dynasty. Oats will be planted in spring and harvested in autumn, the exact opposite of rye. These two will work hand in hand to feed your dynasty's animals. Next to last on our list is wheat, which is used to create straw. The reason wheat is next to last on our list is that rye is the better alternative to getting straw because of the bonus animal feed. Wheat can be planted in either the spring or autumn time and will take 2 seasons to mature. It's worth noting that in the late game, wheat does become important because wheat grain is the best at making flour, which will go into a lot of different dishes. And taking up the last spot on our list is poppy. And what can I say about poppy that hasn't already been said? Poppy can be planted in the spring and will come up in autumn. It's pretty useless, and if you plant a patch of 20 every 10 years, you will probably have enough to get by. Poppy seeds do go into health potions though, so this plant isn't totally useless. Hopefully by now, you've begun to understand the importance of farming and have a good idea of what you should be planting. If you really want to thrive, then you will need a very hands-on approach to managing your farmers and barn workers. As always, I recommend that you review and implement your management strategies at the start of each season. When it comes to farming, there is a 3-set checklist to keep you on track. Number 1. Check your fields. This involves setting the crops you want to be planted or the fields you want to be prepared for planting depending on the season. Once your dynasty is big enough, you'll be able to set fields with what you want to plant for the entire year, and you'll be able to skip this step. But for most of you, checking and adjusting your fields each season is mandatory. Number 2. Rotate your field and barn workers. You're going to want to make sure that your villagers are doing meaningful work in seasons like spring that require a lot of planting. You should need to move barn workers to the field to help you get seeds in the ground. Alternatively, in winter, most of your field workers should be moved into the barn to help finish this year's manufacturing. Once you have rotated your field and barn workers, you will be ready to move on to step 3. Step 3. Bring additional help if needed. If you're worried that your fields may not get planted or harvested, then move other workers over. Nothing is more important than your farm. A good dynasty manager will always be able to find some wiggle room somewhere to add additional workers to the field when the time is needed. And to finish up this video today, I wanted to give out 5 tips to help get you started with farming. Tip number 1. Villager skill doesn't matter for farmers. Every farmer works at the same speed regardless of their skill level, so your best farmer should stay in the barn and any villager should be allowed to work the fields if need be. Tip number 2. Workers must be present in your fields. Your fields are the only place your workers have to physically be at to produce. Because of this, you should house your farmers close to the fields they are planning to work at. This will ensure your workers don't waste time walking to the field when the work days start. Tip number 3. Make your fields big. You will thank me for this one later. Make sure to make your fields large. This will allow for much easier management. Just remember, fields are taxed based on their size, so keep that in mind when placing down your first couple of fields. They can always be destroyed and replaced in the future. Tip number 4. Master seasons. Springtime is by far the busiest season for your farmers. You should expect to have to bring additional workers in to help get crops in the ground. On the other hand, wintertime is normally not too busy. You can move field workers into the barn to finish manufacturing this year's haul. Tip number 5, preparation. You can prepare your fields beforehand by tilling and fertilizing the soil. It's a good idea to always have your villagers working to prepare your fields for the next season. They will do this automatically, so watch out because they may be working on preparing fields instead of planting. Well, it looks like that's all we have for today's video. I really hope you were able to learn something new about farming in Medieval Dynasty. I wanted to take a moment to give a big thank you to those who have made it this far in the video. Please remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We will be coming out with more Medieval Dynasty content soon that you won't want to miss. Thanks again so much for watching and supporting. Until next time, this is Simply Syrup signing off.